Welcome to this hands-on project. My name is Israel and I'm about to walk you guys through to teach you guys how to use GitHub Actions to deploy a microservice application to AWS EC2 instance. So the title of this project is CI/CD with GitHub Actions, deploying a Docker Compose application on AWS EC2 instance. For this project, the key technologies that we're going to be learning and using for this project are Docker Compose, which is Docker, and also GitHub Actions, which is for CI/CD deployment, which will help us to automate all the processes. And also we're going to be deploying to a server, because if you are deploying an application, you need that application to run somewhere. So that application will be running on the cloud, AWS specific, on AWS EC2 instance. So what you will learn from this project are, number one, you're going to understand what are microservices, why do we need microservices, and how they fit together to deploy a scalable web application. And secondly, we're going to learn how to deploy a microservice application using Docker Compose locally. Now, before we are going to automate it using GitHub Actions, first of all, we want to be sure that that application is running on our local machine before taking it step further to deploy it on AWS using GitHub Actions to automate the whole process. Now, this project is for people who already have a basic knowledge of Docker. You already know what Docker is. You already know what container is. You already know how to run images. You already know how to build images, and also you already know how to deploy applications using Docker. And secondly, you must have a fundamental knowledge of Linux, because as a DevOps engineer, Linux is everything. So you need fundamental knowledge of Linux, how to run Linux commands, how to move across your file directory, how to download stuff from the internet. And lastly, you should have a basic knowledge of CI/CD. What are CI/CD in DevOps? So CI/CD, basically, we are trying to automate the whole process. Instead of us manually running stuff, we're going to be automating it using CI/CD pipelines. So if you have these three prerequisites, then you are good. Then this video is for you. Let's move forward. Now, this is the architecture of the project. Now, this project, like I said earlier, is a microservice applications. It's a microservice application, and here are the microservices. The first one we have is a vote application. Now, the voting application is written in Python. So it is basically a Flask framework for Python. So this is the front end that is going to let users to cast their vote. So when users want to vote, they go to this particular application and they cast their vote. And secondly, we have a Redis application. Now, Redis is an in-memory queue. It's an in-memory database that stores data, in memory. So when users cast their vote, that vote will be stored on the Redis queue temporarily. And the third component is the worker. Now, this worker application is written in .NET framework. What this application does is that whenever a user casts their vote, this particular worker is on the background, pulling that vote from the Redis. So why is this important? Instead of us casting the vote and sending it to the database, which I'm going to explain shortly, the particular vote is stored on the Redis, and the worker queue, which is running as a background process, is going to be pulling that particular vote from the Redis and saving it or writing it to the database. And the third one we have here is the PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL is a relational database. So this PostgreSQL is the database that's going to be storing our vote. So when a user casts their vote, that particular vote will be stored on a database together with the voter ID. And the last one is the result application. Now, this result application is also a front-end application that is going to output the final result of the vote. So while this is used to cast the vote, which is the voting application, the result application is used to display the result of the vote. So these are the various microservices for this application. Now, this is how real world application actually works. Now, in the real world, we have different applications that communicate with each other. So it is not just about deploying a static website, but understanding the flow of how to deploy microservices and how all of them work together to provide solution. So this is the architectural diagram. So this is like the user. So the user can either access the voting application to cast their vote, or they will go to the result of front end to see who is winning between the cat and the dog. And also, when the user casts their vote, that vote is persisted on Redis. Redis is an in-memory database, just like I mentioned before. And from there, this worker application pulls the vote, processes it, and stores it in the database. So when the user wants to check result, the result application is going to query the database and return the result of the vote. So this is like a basic architecture of how this project is going to look like. I hope you are feeling excited already. So for the deployment process, there are various ways we can actually deploy this application. We're going to be using Docker Compose or Docker Swarm. Docker Swarm is a native Docker orchestration tool, just like Kubernetes, but it is not that robust compared to Kubernetes. And lastly, we're going to be using Kubernetes. But the deployment of Kubernetes is not going to be in this video, but I'm just trying to show you different ways of which you can deploy this application. And also, we're going to be using GitHub Actions to automate the whole process. Now, as a DevOps engineer, you are deploying stuff using automation, and a key part of it is CI/CD. So because of that, we're going to learn some basic fundamentals of GitHub Actions and how to use GitHub Actions to automate workflows. So this is the overview of the project. So if you are feeling excited already, please smash the like button, follow me, and also share with people who need this video. Without wasting most of your time, let's jump straight into it.